All right, so as I said, today I will be speaking on ISA-funded research and how it can benefit farmers. So my hope for my talk today is that you walk away with some new knowledge of checkoff-funded research. A lot of people don't really know what ISA is funding, and we are really working hard to increase the knowledge out there of where checkoff-funded dollars are going towards soybean production research specifically. So this is something that our agronomy team is very passionate about. I think you probably caught on to that in Abigail and Stacy's presentation earlier, that research is something that we feel is very important, supporting researchers around the state, but also developing our own on-farm trialing network. And so you got a preview of that on-farm trialing network this morning from Stacy, but I will actually be focusing more on that research that we're funding with external partners, so like university researchers and some other organizations that we collaborate with. And so that's kind of an overview. We're going to dive into hopefully some things that you can walk away with that are useful for you. Again, this is not research that we are doing ourselves, we are funding it. And so I'm going to be highlighting the researchers who are actually doing the work and encourage you to reach out to them specifically if you have in-depth questions, but I'll hopefully provide you some overview information that you can use. And I guess just some quick background on myself as well. So I have been with the Illinois Soybean Association for about 2 years now. Prior to that, I did work with University of Illinois Extension on water quality issues down in South Central and Southeastern Illinois, especially around the Illinois nutrient loss reduction strategy. Prior to that, I am a graduate of University of Illinois with a bachelor's in natural resources and environmental sciences, and I have my master's in agronomy from Purdue University. And I did grow up on my family's corn and soybean farm in Edgar County, which my parents are actually in the audience today. So it's just nice to grow up on a farm family and to be able to serve farmers in this capacity as an Illinois Soybean Association staff member. So I just appreciate that you're all here today, and we'll go ahead and dive in. Okay, so on this slide, this is a statement that I created myself, and I think it reflects how I feel and how our agronomy staff team feels. So we really think that checkoff dollars should be directed towards soybean production research that will fund studies that will provide new or updated recommendations that will benefit a farm operation or lay groundwork for future studies. So this is practical research. That's what we're trying to fund here. We find that it's really important that there can be takeaways at the end of a study that a farmer can implement onto their operation quickly if possible. And we all know research, sometimes results aren't quickly come by, so it may take a few years to actually get a study completed that can be useful to farmers. But we really value that as a checkoff, that the research that we're doing will be applicable to farmers, or it can lay the groundwork for those future studies. So that's another way that we think of checkoff dollars, is as sort of seed money. So if a researcher has an idea that they want to try out and see in a small plot trial how this might work, they can use checkoff money to do that, but then maybe apply for larger grant opportunities in the future with the results that they found from checkoff funded work. So we just really value supporting researchers in the state, and doing that is one way to help them lay the groundwork for those future studies too. So that's kind of like a personal belief of how we should utilize checkoff dollars, especially for soybean production research. So I think that's something that's very exciting for the association to be heading in that direction, and we hope to continue to grow that program as well. So this was highlighted this morning as well by Stacy. We actually doubled the number of soybean production research projects that were funded this year. So we speak in fiscal years, and so fiscal year 24 began September 1st of 2023 and will run until August 31st of this year, 2024. So this fiscal year, we doubled the amount of projects that were funded for soybean production research specifically. So ISA has multiple different aspects to it. So there's market development, government relations and policy, and agronomy, soybean production. So checkoff dollars are funding many, many things, but this is very exciting to us that we were able to double the amount of projects that were funded. And so I encourage you to pick up this brochure. It is on the table in the main hallway. and this includes the overviews of the different research projects that were funded for fiscal year 24. Some were new. We had 8 new projects, so half were brand new, which was very exciting to engage with new researchers. I also wanted to highlight our new research hub on illsoyadvisor.com. So last year we developed a way to highlight our researchers that we were working with, and this year we kind of took that and revamped it a little bit and refocused on the projects themselves while still highlighting the researchers. So this is something that we are proud of. We want to point people towards this resource because this is where you can learn about what is being done with checkoff funded research in terms of soybean production. So I'm going to quickly, this is just a screenshot of the research hub from my phone. If you scroll through this, and you can see that you can meet the researchers, there's a project archive where you can visit old projects. We have the 3 main categories of projects that we fund. So there I clicked on pest management. What are we funding in pest management? Okay, you're curious, you can scroll through and see the list of projects here that are currently funded in regards to pest management. So if you want to learn more about cover crops and SCN, you click that project, learn more. You can view an overview of the project in PDF form, or you can keep scrolling and see these different drop downs where you can learn about what questions is this project trying to address, where is this research happening, why is this research important to me. You can learn about the lead researcher who is conducting the project, and often these are done in teams. Of course, we know research isn't a solo thing, but we highlight the principal investigator of each project. So Jason Bond, for example, down at Southern Illinois University is our partner on this project. And so you can do that for all of the projects that we're funding, and this is something we'll continue to build on each year. So I highly encourage you to go to the Research Hub. It's illsoyadvisor.com/research, and you will find all of these excellent projects. And so the topic today is ISA-funded research. What can it do for you? And so I wanted to pull just some highlights of examples of projects. Some have been completed and some are still ongoing. Some have just started this year. So I'm just highlighting 6 projects for you here. And again, like I said, I am not the principal investigator. I'm not the researcher doing these, but I am here to try and help you learn more about these opportunities that are happening that could be useful for you. So this will be kind of like a highlight reel, but feel free to ask questions at the end, and I'm excited to hear your feedback. So the first thing we'll talk about, what can ISA-funded research do? It can change the way you fertilize. It can inform your scouting practices. It can guide your adoption of cover crops. It can shed light on your variety selections. It can help you battle resistant weed populations in your fields. And it can help you extract more value from your crop. So these are the 6 ideas that we're going to cycle through today of how ISA-funded research can help you. So we'll go ahead and dive in. ISA-funded research can change the way you fertilize. Andrew Margonaut is a researcher here at University of Illinois who conducted a 2-year study with us that was completed in 2022. The project title was A Comprehensive Evaluation of Phosphorus Best Management Practices for Soybean to Increase Nutrient Use Efficiency, Profitability, and Water Quality. That's a lot of words, right? So basically he was looking at how can we reevaluate our phosphorus fertilizer management strategies. And so Andrew led a team who conducted the study in Urbana and Ewing, which Ewing is in very south Illinois, so south central. He was looking at 3 different phosphorus sources. So we had MAP, DAP, and TSP, triple superphosphate. And he was looking at 2 different rates, maintenance and 75% of the maintenance rate. And these are rates that are currently recommended in the Illinois Agronomy Handbook. He was also looking at 3 timings and placements, so a fall broadcast, a spring broadcast, and spring banding. And so Andrew was just trying to help understand those current recommendations in the Agronomy Handbook. Are they still accurate for the state? Are there ways that we can improve the amount of fertilizer we're putting out, not only for our own pocket savings, but also for water quality improvements? And so Andrew found from this that looking at those 3 different sources, the rates and 3 timings and placements, that soybean yield and pea removal rates were similar across all of those. So across the source, the rate, the timing, and the placement. It didn't matter between MAP, DAP, and TSP. Soybean yield and pea removal rates were similar, no significant differences. So what he concluded from this was, as a source, triple superphosphate is just as good as MAP or DAP for soybean yield, and it has the added benefit of reducing nitrogen loss. So we know MAP and DAP have a nitrogen component, and especially when you're applying MAP or DAP in the fall, there is a greater chance of losing nitrogen into water. And so TSP does not have that nitrogen component. It's just triple superphosphate, 0,46,0. So if you're going to apply a phosphorus product in the fall, TSP is definitely a great option for you. And if you are going to apply MAP or DAP, consider changing that timing from the fall to the spring. So especially in fall, he did see that there are still significant losses of nitrogen from MAP or DAP, but by doing those applications in the spring, it did minimize nitrogen loss. We have several resources about this project on illsoyadvisor.com. So Andrew completed a webinar for us, a whole hour webinar where you can go hear him talk exactly about this project, what he did, what they found in full detail. We also have a fact sheet online that you can view. I have a screenshot of it on there as well. And so it has the data listed out, the why we did this project, and the findings as well. So you can find that on illsoyadvisor.com/research/archive. And our archive currently, I'll say, only has 2 things on it because we are really ramping up the research that we're doing. And so this is one project that's been completed. Like I said, I've only been on the team for 2 years, so some of the historical work that has been done at ISA is not available on here yet, but could be something we visit. And then as more projects are being funded and completed, keep an eye on that archive because more and more information is going to become available. So next, ISA-funded research can inform your scouting practices. This is Dr. Jason Bond down at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. He conducted a study called Using Multispectral Platforms to Manage the Soybean Cyst Nematode. So that's a fancy way of saying they were using drones to try and understand if they could use that technology to determine where soybean cyst nematode was causing the most stress in a field, and then create adaptive management strategies based off of those drone findings. So this study just wrapped up. We just got the final report about a month or 2 ago. So it was a 3-year study from 2021 to 2023. And again, he was looking at how to use a drone to estimate those SCN infestation levels. They did this trial in several fields down near Carmi in Southern Illinois. And so what they found was the normalized difference vegetation index, which is NDVI, has shown significant correlations with SCN indicators. So if you use a drone, there are several different of these indexes that can be used. They looked at 19, and NDVI was the one that had the most significant correlation with SCN indicators. So what they're recommending is that using that drone technology, flying and looking at the NDVI, can help us detect SCN stress by assessing the soybean canopy at the end of the growing season. So it was interesting because they found they couldn't detect SCN prior to September, but whenever they got to September and beyond, they were able to use that technology to see those indicators of stress from SCN. And so this was one where when we got the final report, we were like, that's super interesting. Now, how can this apply to people? What's the next steps with this? And so Jason's team actually developed a toolkit that can be used with people who have drones. So whether it's your advisor or you as a farmer have a drone yourself, you can receive this toolkit and use it to help you do scouting trips with your drone. And this is something that we're actually going to follow up with Jason and say, okay, now we have this toolkit, can we create a training package for advisors and farmers to utilize this more in depth? Or can we, what are the next steps to really dive into new management strategies utilizing the drone technology? So this is one that is currently wrapped up, but we'll probably have next steps associated with it because we just want to understand now that we have this technology, what else can we do with it? What was cool about this project too was the amount of grad students and postdocs that were involved with it. So that's something else that we're really passionate about here at ISA is student engagement and training up the next leaders in agriculture. So as a team, we are very passionate. Like I said, we have the student research poster competition this evening that I encourage you to stick around for. We really want to help those next leaders become agriculture just staples here in Illinois. We want them to stay, and we want them to help adding to our value here in Illinois ag. And so these two were students that were on this project that learned a lot of new skills, and so we're very excited about that. This project is also in the archive. It's the second project that's currently in there, so I encourage you to go check that out as well if you are wanting to learn more about this project. We actually have a video where you can hear Jason and the students talking about their findings from last year, and so we'll continue to kind of update some of those results as they come out. ISA research can also help guide your adoption of cover crops. So I think you've picked up on our team is passionate about soil health as well. This is one project that we have helped support with Nathan Johanning. He is a commercial ag educator with University of Illinois Extension, and he is based in the Belleville area, but he has utilized several colleagues to help this project have a wider reach across the state of Illinois. So the project title of this one is Understanding the Importance of Cover Crop Planting Date in Illinois Row Crop Production. And Stacy actually mentioned this one earlier as well. This is one we're very excited about because it seems like it might be simple, but there are still so many farmers who have questions about cover crops, like what may seem like simple questions of what seeding rate do I use, what time of year is best for me to maximize my biomass production. And those really aren't simple questions if you've never done it. Those are they can be very confusing and people need guidance. And so Nathan is extremely practical, has great hands-on information, and so this project has been exciting to us. It's currently in its second year, so it started in fall of 2022. He has planted the second year's worth of cover crops this past fall, so he'll be collecting more information this spring and throughout the growing season. But this trial specifically was looking at how to optimize planting windows of cover crops, those seeding rates, termination timings, to really maximize our biomass production and the rotational crop stand and growth and yield. So he is looking at both corn and soybean, which that's another big thing that we are proponents of. As the Soybean Association, we understand that corn is extremely popular as well. So corn and soybeans are in rotation in Illinois, and we support both of those crops. And so we want to be able to support our growers who are soybean and corn growers to adopt cover crops and understand how to best fit them into their rotation. So that's another benefit of this project. I remember when Nathan came to us, he's like, "Can I look at corn too?" And we're like, "Yes. Just because we're the Soybean Association doesn't mean you can't study corn. We really encourage it." So this one, he's looking at 5 different sites. So we have the Monmouth University of Illinois site, the Orr Center here, Urbana on the South Farms, Belleville, and then Ewing again. And so this past fall, he planted 4 different cereal rye rates, so looking at 30, 60, 90, and 120 pounds at 3 different planting dates, September 29th, October 19th, and November 22nd, and that's all going to be cereal rye before soybean. He also is looking at 3 different clover planting dates for both crimson clover and balanza clover. So those 3 planting dates were October 19th, November 6th, and November 22nd. We only have 1 year worth of data from this project so far. Like I said, we're in year 2. So we are hesitant to give full guidelines or recommendations based off of 1 year of data. But Nathan has come back with some just general thoughts and observations. So again, Nathan is very excellent at practical hands-on information. And so one thing that he has shared with us so far is that those earlier cover crop planting dates they really can provide great biomass and more reliable cover crop establishment for both the clovers and the cereal rye. So it seems obvious, yes, if you plant something earlier, you're probably going to have better biomass growth. But he is finding that even at that 30-pound rate, that lowest rate that he's looking at, planting it earlier really helps establish the stand so that it has the potential to grow into the fall and then really rebound again in the spring, especially with cereal rye. So just because you might not want to do 120 pounds, that's a lot. You may not want to put out that much, but putting out 30 pounds at that earlier date really can help maximize your growth. But also another observation was that November 22nd date, a lot of times people get done with harvest and think, oh, it's too late to get a good stand. But Nathan's finding that to the contrary, you still can get a good stand in the fall established, even at November 22nd. And just getting it established in the fall, even if you have a couple inches of growth, that's going to allow the cereal rye or clovers to take off in the spring whenever they overwinter and come back. So this is evolving. Like I said, we'll have another year's worth of data after this spring, and I encourage you to stay tuned to ILSoy Advisor. But if you actually want to hear from Nathan, he provided 2 updates for us in December where he was at the Belleville research site and walked through each plot. It's really great information. If you're just curious, what does 120 pounds of cereal rye planted in November look like a month later? Nathan really gets down on his hands and knees and looks at the clover and everything. So I encourage you, these are just like 6 or 7 minute videos on the Illinois Soybean Association YouTube channel. So go check those out. This is the kind of information that we're trying to promote. We want that hands-on information where a farmer can see and take back to their own operation. All right, what else can ISA-funded research do for you? It can provide insights into your variety selections. So some of you may know that we support the University of Illinois crop science variety trials. For the soybean side, we have supported the protein and oil content measurements for the past several years. This is operated through Darren Juice, so he's here on campus as a research agronomist, and he is the one who goes around throughout all the state and harvests the variety trials and is very busy in spring and fall getting these variety trials out there. And him and his team do an excellent job doing that. And we appreciate that because this is wonderful, unbiased information on both corn, soybean, and wheat varieties that is available every year to growers. And so as the Soybean Association, we are happy to be able to support that through the protein and oil content testing. They are trying to always continue to streamline that data collection so that it can be compiled and made available to farmers more quickly so that you can really utilize it when you're making your variety selections. So if you haven't checked it out before, the website's here. If you just Google variety testing UIUC, it'll pop right up. And this is a great resource that really needs our support because some companies have been kind of pulling back from this variety testing, putting their varieties into the trial. And for us, we are very supportive of unbiased information, and we know that companies have their own agenda at times, and so having the university providing these results for us through the variety testing is extremely important. So we encourage you, if you're working with a dealer, say, hey, have you submitted this to the variety trialing? We'd love to see it in there, just so that we can continue to support this data collection. So new this year, we are adding soybean cyst nematode testing as well. And so Nathan Schroeder is a professor here on campus as well who is partnering with Darren Juice to be able to look at how do these different soybean varieties fare under different SCN pressures at all the different testing sites. How can these different varieties with the same genetic resistance respond to SCN pressures, and what causes those differences in responses? And then how do the varieties respond to differences between SCN populations? So this was great for us as well. If you haven't heard, the Soybean Association is also sponsoring free soybean cyst nematode sampling this year. So I encourage you to utilize that resource. You can send in as many soil samples as you want to the plant clinic here at University of Illinois, and they will sample them for you for free. And that's something that the Soybean Association is providing back to growers and advisors this year. And so that data will also help feed into the variety selections, and this is all kind of compiling onto each other where we're trying to grow our efforts around soybean cyst nematode. And so if you aren't familiar with the variety trialing, they do conduct this in multiple locations around the state. So we have Freeport and DeKalb in Region 1, Monmouth and Goodfield in Region 2, Perry and Urbana in Region 3, and St. Peter and Belleville in Region 4. So again, if you go on to that website, you can see data from the past several years for these research sites. ISA research can also help you battle resistant weed populations in your fields. This is a new study for us this year with Dr. Aaron Hager here at University of Illinois. He is the extension weed scientist, and he is looking at water hemp. We know it's developing resistance to group 15 herbicides, so that's products like dual 2 Magnum, Zidua, Warrant, and Outlook. And so he's trying to help farmers understand how those resistance levels are developing in populations across Illinois, what level is that present at, and he's going to be coming up with some management strategies to try and help farmers battle the water hemp resistance. And so this was another very exciting project for us. We know that's one of the comments we get the most is just weed management. That's a concern for everyone. How can we help battle these weeds? So this project was exciting, and their team collected water hemp seeds from approximately 120 fields this fall. So if you can imagine that going out, the grad student who is doing that project is actually here today. I don't think he's in the room, but I can't imagine being the one to go out and collect all those water hemp samples. But they did, and they hit approximately 90% of the counties in Illinois. So we'll get a good look at that resistant population across the state. This is actually the grad student here. His name is Travis, and this was a video that FarmDoc put out where they were asking for farmers and advisors to actually submit water hemp samples to them as well. So the team went out and collected samples all around the state, but they also wanted farmers to submit their own samples just to broaden the amount of impact and reach that the project had. And so Travis here put together a great video kind of instructing farmers on how they could collect their water hemp samples and send them in to the lab. And this map here is the sample collection that they hit. So the counties in green are counties that were sampled by the lab, Aaron's lab and Travis at University of Illinois. And the light green squares are ones that farmers submitted samples from, and the UIUC team also went to those counties. So you can see there's not as many light green counties as dark green. So we had 10 counties that received submissions from farmers and advisors. And Aaron Hager's team captured 84 counties themselves. So this was something where Travis reached out, asked for help to get samples submitted. We shared this information on our website as well, really wanting to engage farmers and advisors to contribute to this project. And 10 counties is great, but we hope if they do this again next year, which they are planning to, that we could get even more than 10. So this was pretty simple. They even covered the shipping, I believe. You just had to go out to the field and cut your sample and ship it in a paper bag. And so this is something we really want to engage more growers with our research. It's important to you. These findings are extremely relevant, and so we want to make sure that the checkoff dollars are being utilized to the best of their ability. And so if you're interested in doing things like this, we highly encourage you to take advantage of opportunities where researchers are asking for that engagement from you. Sometimes that doesn't always happen, where researchers might be more isolated in their lab, and this is not a program like that. They are very engaged, and so just encourage you to engage back with them if you feel like it and have the chance. All right, ISA research can also help you extract more value from your crop. So some of you may be familiar with the soyleic soybean varieties. I want to introduce Dr. Eliana Monteverde. She's in the room, actually. She is the new plant breeder here at University of Illinois, and she has replaced Dr. Brian Deers, which many of us were familiar with. Dr. Deers had a long wonderful career here at University of Illinois, and he retired last spring, and so we're very happy that Eliana was able to fill his position. And so Dr. Deers really began this work here in Illinois with soyleic, and so soyleic was a project out of University of Missouri. So they were looking at developing a soybean, a variety that has the greater than 80% oleic acid and less than 3% linolenic acid. And so this is all kind of going back to health concerns over soybean oil. So the trans fat in traditional soybean varieties is really high. And so when people use that as oil for cooking or for different food products, it's been concerning to folks because of the trans fat values. And so the soyleic varieties are being bred in order to have those lower trans fat values and higher values of the healthier fats. So this is a great product that is being developed here in Illinois in collaboration with Missouri and other states to help further the market for soybean growers. And so by breeding these lines and having them come out of Illinois, it's just very exciting to have a new space, a new variety for farmers to help grow into. So it is a non-GMO variety, and so this is also something that as a Soybean Association we want to help support growers as they're looking into non-GMO varieties. How can I best grow those whenever there are concerns like weed management, especially, and just all the different aspects that go into growing non-GMO. But yes, so Soy Lake ISA checkoff funding specifically will be helping expand just the testing that they're able to do with that program here in Illinois. It was already happening, and like I said, many thanks to Dr. Deers for starting this and for Dr. Eliana Monteverde to continue that work as she's new here in the state. But we look forward to continuing to work with Eliana and the new projects that she might have passion about as well. Yes, and so getting back to farmer and advisor participation. So I touched on this with Dr. Aaron Hager's project, where there was an opportunity to farmers for them to submit samples into that program to have them assessed for resistance to group 15 herbicides. But that was not the only opportunity that we had available for farmer participation this year. And so this is a screenshot of our homepage on the illsoyadvisor.com, where it says free farmer-led soybean data collection, a win-win for farmers and researchers. And so we really believe that whenever researchers invite farmers to submit samples, it's a free exchange of knowledge and resources. You have a problem, the researcher's trying to help you. It only makes sense for the farmers and researchers to interact in that way and submit samples, talk to each other, kind of like what Chris was saying in his keynote this morning. Use your resources, and we have a lot of new talent coming into Illinois in terms of researchers, and we want to support that and the work that they're doing. So this screenshot, if you go to this drop down and click surveys there under tools and resources, you can see here I mentioned we have the free soybean cyst nematode program going on this year. So that is one way that you could help collect soil samples that will benefit you, but also researchers will take that information to understand soybean cyst nematode resistant populations around the state. If you keep scrolling, you'll see we had several other opportunities for farmer engagement. That annual soybean quality survey was one from Minnesota that they were doing Midwest, across the Midwest. This was one from Dr. Nick Sider here at University of Illinois. He was looking for Dectes stem borer samples to be submitted, or for farmers to walk their own fields and assess those populations there. And there's also the water hemp survey, and just putting this out there that we are trying to encourage that engagement between researchers and farmers, and this resource is available on illsoyadvisor.com for you to learn about those opportunities. We also share about them at events like today or throughout social media, so as these new opportunities pop up, we will share about them. And like I said, it's free. The researchers often will provide shipping costs because their funders want that shipping to be free for the grower. So it's really just your time and maybe a little bit of energy to collect the sample, but it can really help you and also just growers all throughout Illinois. And speaking of that, this was mentioned earlier as well by Stacy, but I really just wanted to hit it again. That we at ISA conduct an annual soybean production concerns survey. And this is something that we target towards farmers and advisors to help us understand what your concerns are in the field. Because we are the Checkoff Association. You give money to the Checkoff Association. And maybe give is not a term I should use. You may not choose to, but we get money from your soybean crop, and we want to use it to benefit you. And that is extremely important to us because we work for you, the farmer. And so we need you to tell us what you want us to study. So we are able to help curate the research projects that are done with checkoff-funded research as the ISA staff. But we can't do that without your help. So I highly encourage you to take this survey. It's in your booklet as well. There's a QR code that you could scan on your device to take that. Scan the code here. It lives on our Illsoy Advisor website now. If you go to that research hub, you can find this survey. Please take it, because you are able to steer the direction of checkoff-funded research by taking this survey. Otherwise, we're going to do our best to try and figure out what your concerns are, and we do know because we're in the field as well, but to an extent, like, we want to make sure that we're hitting the things that you really want researched with checkoff dollars. So again, I just ask that you take this. It'll be open year-round. This is new. We used to close it after this event, actually. We just would keep it open for about a month in January, but we realized really things might come to your mind in the middle of the growing season whenever you're out scouting your fields, or and when you're in the combine and harvest, something might come to mind like, oh, I wish someone would research this topic more. Come take the survey. It'll be on illsoyadvisor.com year-round. And so just encourage you to do that. And we also encourage you to talk to us anytime. Please talk to the staff on the agronomy team especially, because we take that feedback very seriously, what you're telling us that you want funded, because we want to be able to produce things that are useful to you, that only makes sense, right? We want to maximize that checkoff dollar to your benefit as much as we can. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for joining today, and I'm happy to take any questions. I think we have about 5 minutes, but yeah, just again, thank you for participating in today. We're just glad to have you here, and yeah, happy to take any questions.
You're talking about the soybean cyst nematode testing program, and I had some signs of that last year and took several samples, and I had one field that really had a pretty high cyst nematode count. So when I went to buy seed beans for this coming year, I indicated that to my dealer, and he was talking about the lack of resistant varieties, and that we've got the Peking and another number, and almost all of our resistance comes from those two. Are we, the soybean industry or Illinois Soybean, pushing the development of some other resistant variety that can be bred into these, because those two seem to be maxed out and not performing? And my dealer just said he was surprised that the industry in general wasn't developing more cyst nematode resistance, because it seems to be the #1 problem we have in the soybean industry. And I just wondered if there's research on some level to come up with another resistant variety that can be bred into these new genetics.
Yeah, good question, Don. Thank you. So from that free soybean cyst nematode sampling that we're doing, Nathan Schroeder here at University of Illinois is actually going to be compiling the data for us, and any fields that had over 3,000 SCN egg counts from those samples, they're going to do an additional test to look at what is called an HD type test to understand which of those varieties that the soybean cyst nematode population in that specific field are resistant to. And so we're going to take that information to have a better understanding of, yes, the resistance all around the state, but then also hopefully we can take that information to help guide researchers towards potential new forms of resistance in the varieties. So are we funding that specifically right now? In a way, yeah, through the SCN sampling. We hope we can help provide information to contribute to the issue. I think it's a very large scale issue, so Illinois Soybean Association isn't going to be able to answer that question ourselves, but hopefully the data that we're collecting can be supportive to our industry partners. It's not something we're going to keep closed-chested to us. We're hoping to share that data back out, because currently, the last update we had, they had received, I think, 560 samples to that SCN sampling, and it was 48 counties, but we really hope we can get samples from every county in Illinois towards that SCN sampling. So if you haven't submitted a sample, please do. It's free, again, and they'll send you a package where you can ship in your samples to the plant clinic. But we really want to try and capture as many samples as we can to help that data set be more robust, so that we can understand the resistance around the state, and then, yeah, you help the researchers use that data to address that problem. Thank you. Any other questions?
When's it a good time to test for your cyst nematodes and yes?
Yeah.
Testing questions.
Yeah, fall was great. Spring will be great as well, and it goes throughout the growing season. So through August 31st of this year is when you can submit the samples. So really any time before then, probably not when the ground's frozen. That wouldn't be a great time, or if it's extremely muddy, I wouldn't suggest that either. But yeah, the springtime will be probably your next best bet to get out and do it. But you'll have through August 31st to go ahead and submit that. And you can submit as many samples as you want from as many fields as you want. There isn't a limit. So, thank you. All right. Thank you so much.